You type a message, then delete it, rewrite it, read it again, change one word, add an emoji, remove the emoji, and somehow, a simple text turns into a full mental debate. So why does something as basic as sending a message feel like making a high-stakes decision? Why does your brain treat a few words on a screen like they could change everything? Because when you send a message, your brain isn't just sending words, it's managing uncertainty, social risk, and how other people see you. And that turns a simple action into something much more complicated. Texting is one of the most common forms of communication today, but it's also one of the most psychologically complex. Unlike face-to-face conversations, texting removes something critical: nonverbal cues. There's no tone of voice, no facial expression, no immediate feedback, which means your brain has to fill in the gaps. And when the brain encounters uncertainty, it doesn't relax. It starts working harder, trying to predict outcomes, avoid mistakes, and protect your social image. Human brains are built for social evaluation. For most of human history, survival depended on being accepted by a group. Being rejected wasn't just uncomfortable, it could be dangerous. So evolution created a system that constantly monitors how others might judge us. This includes processes like impression management and self-presentation. When you send a message, your brain automatically asks, "How will this sound? What will they think? Could this be misunderstood?" That's not overreacting. That's your brain doing exactly what it evolved to do. Now add texting into the equation. In real conversations, your brain receives instant feedback: a smile, a nod, a quick reply. These signals reduce uncertainty, but texting removes all of that. You send a message and then wait. No response, no clarification, just silence. That silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is something the brain hates. When the brain encounters uncertainty, it activates regions involved in threat detection, including the amygdala. This doesn't mean texting is dangerous, but the brain treats unclear social situations as potential risks, so it tries to reduce that risk by thinking harder, analyzing more, replaying possibilities. This leads to overthinking, but overthinking isn't random. It follows a pattern. Psychologists call this cognitive rumination. The brain loops through possible outcomes. What if they misunderstand? What if it sounds rude? What if they don't reply? Each possibility triggers another, and suddenly a simple message turns into dozens of mental simulations. At the same time, another system is working: the prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain handles decision-making and planning. It tries to optimize the message, adjust wording, improve clarity, avoid mistakes. This creates something called decision paralysis. Too many options, too many possible outcomes, and no clear, perfect choice, so the brain delays the decision. That's why you keep editing the same message, because your brain is trying to find a version that minimizes risk. But here's the problem. In most cases, that perfect message doesn't exist. There's also the issue of tone ambiguity. In face-to-face communication, tone carries meaning. But in text, tone has to be imagined. A short message might feel efficient to you, but to someone else it might feel cold. So your brain compensates, adding emojis, changing punctuation, rewriting sentences, all to control how the message is interpreted. And then there's rejection sensitivity. Some people are more sensitive to social feedback than others. For them, even small uncertainties feel significant. A delayed reply can feel like rejection. A short response can feel like disinterest. So the brain tries to prevent those outcomes by carefully crafting messages, which leads to more overthinking. But this is where things get really interesting. The brain doesn't just think about the message, it simulates the entire conversation. This is called mental simulation. You imagine their reply, then your response, then their reaction, all before sending a single text. It's like your brain is running a full conversation, internally trying to predict the future. This connects to something called prediction error. The brain constantly compares expectations with outcomes. If the outcome is uncertain, the brain keeps adjusting its prediction. That's why you reread your message multiple times. Each time, your brain is trying to reduce uncertainty, trying to make the prediction more accurate. Modern digital communication makes this worse because texting is asynchronous. There's a delay between sending and receiving. That delay creates space for imagination, and imagination often leans toward negative possibilities. At the same time, there's a social layer. Texting has unspoken rules. How fast should you reply? How long should the message be? Should you double text? These expectations create social pressure, and your brain tries to navigate all of them at once. Perfectionism also plays a role. If you want your message to be just right, you're more likely to overanalyze it. This increases cognitive load. The more you think, the more effort your brain uses, and the harder it becomes to make a decision. Interestingly, overthinking messages is more common in situations where the outcome matters. Talking to a crush, messaging a boss, replying after an argument. In these situations, the perceived social stakes are higher, so the brain increases effort, trying to avoid mistakes. But here's the catch. Overthinking doesn't always improve communication. In fact, it can make it worse. Messages become less natural, less authentic, and sometimes delayed, which can create the very misunderstanding you were trying to avoid. Now here's something most people don't realize. Overthinking messages can also be mentally exhausting. Every time you analyze, edit, and simulate outcomes, your brain uses energy. This contributes to cognitive fatigue, which can reduce clarity and increase anxiety. So the more you think, the harder it becomes to think clearly. And yet your brain keeps doing it, because from its perspective, it's trying to protect you, protect your image, protect your relationships, protect your place in the social world. Short messages are more likely to be misinterpreted than longer ones. And surprisingly, most people worry far more about how their messages sound than others actually notice. So what's actually happening here? Overthinking text messages is the result of multiple systems working together: social evaluation, uncertainty avoidance, prediction and simulation, decision making, which means the problem isn't that you're bad at texting, it's that your brain is too good at thinking ahead, too good at imagining outcomes, too good at trying to avoid mistakes. And in a world where communication lacks tone, timing, and immediate feedback, that ability can easily go into overdrive. So the next time you find yourself rewriting the same message again and again, it's not because you don't know what to say. It's because your brain is trying to control something it can't fully predict: how another human will interpret your words. If you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday behaviors, share this video and subscribe to the channel for more. The hardest part of communication isn't saying something wrong. It's thinking too much before saying anything at all.